Welcome, Treasurer Summers. Thank you so much for joining us today at the SRI Conference and Community. We are so excited to have you here, and your speech last night was just so empowering, and it's really resonated with so many of the audience members last night, and today as well. They're still talking about it, so thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We'd love to hear a little bit about your story. Your personal story that you shared on stage last night was quite something. So I'd love you to tell us a little bit about your journey of growing up in Chicago to becoming the treasurer for the city of Chicago.
Yeah. So I grew up on the south side of Chicago in the Bronzeville neighborhood, and I'm a product of the Chicago public school system. Grew up in a neighborhood that was surrounded by poverty and drugs and gangs and not much hope. And I can remember as a little kid, maybe 7 or 8 years old, going on field trips around the city and seeing other parts of the city and coming home and asking my mom, why are they worthy of investment? Why do those neighborhoods look different from ours? Why are they worthy of investment and we aren't? And who makes those decisions? And it's something that always stuck with me, and something that I knew at an early age I wanted to figure out how to impact what I now know as the flow of capital markets and investment decisions for a broader purpose, and to show kids on the south side and west side of Chicago and kids who grew up in public school systems like I did that they are worthy of investment, and that there are opportunities in neighborhoods and urban areas around this country. So when I had the opportunity to run for treasurer, I felt like it was a culmination of 30 years of effort, of building my craft in finance as an investor, and an ability to give back to my city and to communities like mine in a way that I may never have again in my life.
You talked about when you first came on board, your first days, your first weeks at the city. You had a lot of challenges, just basic challenges that one would never have even imagined. Can you tell us a little bit about them?
So I took office about 4 years ago, and when we came in, while Chicago is the third largest city in the world, while Chicago is the third largest city in the country, and I'm the 70th treasurer of Chicago, we came into a system, a team, and a portfolio that was not built for the environment that we are in now as an investor. Our technology system was 37 years old. Mind you, I was 35 years old at the time, so we had an IT system that was meant to face this era of high-frequency trading and dynamic markets around the globe, and it was older than I was. So clearly we had to upgrade technology. We had outdated investment policies that predated the global financial crisis, which really changed the way that we think about investing as an institutional community. And we had an opportunity to enhance and upgrade our team. We brought on tremendous talent, folks who had managed multiple amounts of, we managed about an $8 billion portfolio, and every chief investment officer or deputy chief investment officer I've had has had experience managing 20, 30, $40 billion of capital, and I was able to entice them and their expertise to the public sector to put their talents toward a greater good. Beyond that, though, we also invested in our younger talent, our analysts and our portfolio managers. We invested in them getting their CFA designations. We had them go to conferences and trainings. We had them learn from broker-dealers, sit in on other trading floors, and really commit to the kind of quality and excellence that we can expect up and down the chain on our investment team, and that was very purposeful.
And at that time when you came on board, I'm sure your investments look very different to what they are today.
Sure. I mean, when we came in, the portfolio was not diversified at all. The portfolio was generating very little revenue for the people of Chicago. Now, if you fast forward 4 years later, we're on track to generate about $100 million more per year in revenue for the people of Chicago. That's more money for parks, schools, public safety, economic development, and for the purposes of taxpayers, less money that we have to ask of them. And it's all driven by, a scrappy, small, but powerful team on the first floor of City Hall.
Now, just walking through the conference over the last couple of days, everyone wanted to know your secret sauce. How did you do it?
There's no simple answer. I wish there was a silver bullet or a magic pill. This just took a lot of hard work. It took us probably 2 years, maybe 2.5 years of significant, purposeful, and systemic work around our portfolio, around our team, around our technology, around our processes and risk management and compliance, to evolve into a more sophisticated investment engine and really show the people of Chicago and show the investment community around the world that it was sort of a new day, and this was a new approach to this municipal treasurer's office and to this municipal investing arm. But that took a lot of work from a lot of dedicated people over 2 years, 2.5 years. And once we were able to do that, and this is where it begins to get fun. Those days are hard, and you don't have all the answers at first. You just know what the goal is. So you know what the end state is, and you sort of start with a vision for what you want your team and your operation to look like, and what your standard of excellence is. And once you've built that and established that, then you can have some real fun. That's when we began to work on our comprehensive strategy for impact investing. Once we built the credibility to say, hey, guys, we're a sophisticated group here. We are influencing markets. We're having a great success with our traditional portfolio. Now, how can we think differently and leverage that success to really improve and empower our portfolio, empower the lives of Chicagoans, and change the conversation globally? And that was a process as well that took time. We spent the better part of 2 years evaluating ESG investment strategies. We talked to every major institutional investor in the world that is investing in some form of ESG, every major trading shop, fixed income shop, asset manager, and we did a deep dive with them and with all of the data providers to see what information is out there and how much of it is high quality, how much of it is relevant to an investment portfolio, to our approach. And we took all of that over the better part of 2 years with some help from graduate students and other outside researchers to help our team develop what would be our own bespoke model to score to create our own ESG score for every single investment in our portfolio. So now you sort of fast forward to the present. 100% of the investments that we review in our investable universe are scored based on our own bespoke model for ESG, and it's based on inputs from several data sources as well as our own primary research. I'll tell you that process is not for the faint of heart, but it can be done. We have a On our investment team, we only have about 8 people, and 3 that were dedicated to this effort for the better part of a year. And now the entire team, it's sort of part of the culture of our office. It's part of the culture of the city of Chicago as we think about our investment strategy. So every investment that we make, in addition to every traditional fundamental analysis, credit quality, price, yield, duration, and other risks. Now we're looking at over 200 factors that represent the world of ESG that are incorporated into those decisions, and it's just part of the fabric of who we are now.
It's quite a story. One of my most memorable stories that you talked about yesterday was your story about the local community bank. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So this comprehensive approach to impact investing really had 2 elements. It was, what are we doing globally, and then what are we doing locally? Globally, obviously, we've taken the steps to become the first city treasury in the world to be a signatory to the UNPRI, the largest city in the world to be a signatory to the UNPRI, the only public investment plan in the world to commit to carbon neutrality by 2020, and the only one that has a dedicated minimum ESG score for its portfolio. We believe that is beginning to have a global impact, but especially here in the U.S., where, to put a finer point on this opportunity, municipal treasurers, city, county, state treasurers, manage about $3.1 trillion of assets just in their treasury programs, separate and apart from retirement and pension plans and OPEB liabilities. This traditional asset class really has not been breached by this sort of investment strategy, by impact investing or SRI or ESG, and it represents, I think, one of the largest opportunities we have as a community to have impact with capital in a way that's consistent with where we want our investments to go in the long run. Now, locally, we also had an opportunity and I think an obligation to show our residents that we could have an impact here at home. And one of the ways in which we did that was we began to look at local investment strategies and where we could partner with financial institutions and partner with local businesses to improve access to capital in communities that, for one reason or another, have been traditionally left out from sources of capital. One place where we did that was in making a $20 million deposit and infusion of capital with the last Black-owned bank in the state of Illinois. The state of Illinois, mind you, is home to more bank charters than any other state in the union, and we only had one left that was Black-owned, and it was really on the brink. It was teetering. It was under new ownership and management. We worked with this new management team for the better part of a year to ensure that they would be ready for what amounted to be the largest deposit in their 80-year history. We effectively have increased, by virtue of our deposit and other deposits that one leveraged, we've increased their assets by over 25% in the last year. And now, a year later, I'm happy to report that they've had their first profitable year in a decade. They are on the path to really just having a great future, and those assets are now being reinvested in communities. This is a bank that is located 4 blocks away from where I grew up, in a community that has 3 times the unemployment rate, that has a poverty rate of about 1/3 of the community, and that sorely needs investment and access to capital. And we were proud to provide that and be a source of that on behalf of the people of Chicago.
And that's truly your story coming full circle.
It is. I mean, this was, if you talk to that 8-year-old kid who said, how do we get investment in our neighborhood and prove that we're worthy? It's been a 30+ year journey to get there, and hopefully we've got 30 more years of trying to do the same, not only in Chicago, but in cities around the country.
So today, with our environmental climate, our political climate, everything that's going on in our world today, it's just so overwhelming for an 8-year-old. What would you say to the 8-year-old children of today?
Yeah, well, what I say often to young people is, I have a couple sort of themes that I talk about with young people when I go to classrooms or talk to groups of kids. One is that you have to start by investing in yourself. Whatever it is that you love, whatever you gravitate toward, do that, do it often, do it better, and be honest with yourself about the things that you need to work on. It's the only way that you can really pursue excellence, whatever the field is, right? But be committed to that more than anything else, more than sort of the flash and the outcomes. It's, my grandmother used to say, people want the glory without the story, right? But the story is a lot of hard work and a lot of investment in yourself. And so it really starts there. The other thing that I say to folks is that, I think we live in a world now that has opened up tremendous opportunities for people that don't have the sort of traditional starting point or traditional entrees into careers. You can create content and put it out there now for the world to see. You can be great at something and be discovered without being from the right family or having the right last name or living in the right zip code. And that should be encouraging for young people today, especially as they think about their own dreams. What that means for them, though, is that as they're pursuing excellence, they have to in their pursuits, not let sort of doubt or fears of risk get in their way. Oftentimes what happens is society for high achieving people says, well, if you take the road less traveled, that represents risk. And my message to young people is you work hard so that you can take risks, so that you have a body of work and you've established credibility so that you can take risks. And if you fail, everyone knows already what you're capable of, and you'll have another opportunity to try and succeed. You have to try and fall forward, which is traditionally something that has been reserved for people who grew up in the right neighborhoods or grew up in the right families. And the reality is now, I think everyone can. Everyone, if they work hard, can take those risks, can rely on their body of work and on their track record, and everyone can fall forward into new opportunities.
The group of people who are here at the SRI Conference and Community are very well established in their careers. They have stories to share. They're influencers in their own right. What responsibility do they have for this generation? The generation that you were just talking about, that they have, maybe they don't have access to mentors, but they can create their own journey through the access that they have to technology. But I do feel that there's an opportunity with the people who are at this conference, how they pass it on. What recommendations would you have for them to get more involved and to educate younger generations around SRI and why it's important? I'm a firm believer that young people can't be what they can't see.
and they need examples in their lives for not only what success looks like, but what integrity looks like, what values look like, and what giving back looks like. I still live on the south side of Chicago for a reason, because I want the young people around me to see my wife and I and see us as an example for them, and lead them to believe that they can achieve whatever we achieve in life and then some. And we talk all the time about what is our why. When I talk to groups of kids, and what I would encourage, anyone at this conference or anyone that's a part of this effort, help folks understand your why. People kind of don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so everyone here is doing this because deep down something sparked in them to make them care, to be an investor with values, an investor that's focused on impact, and one that's socially responsible. That comes from somewhere, and people need to hear those stories. And that helps really anyone, your peers, folks that work for you, the next generation coming after you, better understand and relate to you, and I think want to incorporate some of those same values in their own lives.
We talked about the slither when people come to investing. They think they're doing the right thing by doing 5% or less.
Right.
Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that there is a now conventional wisdom that impact investing, investing in SRI or ESG is deserving of a place in the portfolio. But it's deserving based on conventional wisdom with just a small portion of the portfolio, that we're going to dedicate this percentage of our portfolio to those kinds of investments. And the reality is that this is an investment strategy that represents opportunity and avoids risks throughout your portfolio. And if you believe that this investment strategy can provide that kind of opportunity and help avoid risks, then it's applicable not to 5 or 10% of the portfolio, but to 100% of the portfolio. The reason why we have employed this with 100% of our portfolio in the city of Chicago is because we believe it will lead to better risk-adjusted returns. It's the better outcome for taxpayers, for our shareholders. And in order to do that, we have to apply it everywhere. And it just so happens to be consistent with our values. It just so happens to be what we believe investors should be considering. It just so happens to be socially responsible, good for the environment, good for diverse workforce, good for efforts at fighting poverty and investing in our urban areas. Those are all good things because in the long run, the folks who are doing that, who are investing in their workforce, who are listening to their consumers, who are smart about their impact on the world, they win. In the long run, they win. In the long run, that's a winning investment strategy for your entire portfolio.
Well, your journey is an unbelievable one and truly inspiring. I just want to thank you so very much from the SRI Conference and Community for being here and sharing your time with us over the last couple of days. And we'd love to see you back here again, hopefully for the 30th anniversary, which is next year.
I'd love to be back. Thank you so much for having me.